All right, so we've got this headline that's making the rounds. Debate intensifies over Giza pyramids, underground city claims. Pretty wild stuff, right?
Yeah, that's definitely an attention grabber for
It
sure.
certainly caught your eye. You sent over this article from the Jerusalem Post
Hmm.
that dives into these claims about like a massive underground complex,
Yeah.
like right under the Giza pyramids. So
Wow.
for you, we're going deep on this. We're looking at what's being reported, the evidence they're presenting, and the reactions from archaeologists because it's causing quite a stir.
Understandably.
We want to make sure you understand what's going on with this developing story and all the different opinions flying around without getting bogged down with too much technical stuff.
Right. Keeping it accessible.
Exactly. So right off the bat, what's really fascinating is just the sheer scale of what they're suggesting. We're talking about these Italian and Scottish researchers, Corrado Malonga and Filippo Biondi, and they've been using this relatively new radar technology called SAR.
Synthetic aperture radar.
Yeah, and based on their analysis, they're saying they found this huge underground city right under the Giza Plateau.
The scale of it is what's striking right from the get-go.
Mm.
We're not talking about a small chamber or two.
Mm.
It's potentially 10 times larger than the pyramids themselves. Imagine that sprawling over 6,500 feet underground.
Yeah.
That's like well over a mile.
A mile and a quarter. Yeah.
Mm.
It's mind-boggling. And it's not just like empty space either. They're claiming to have identified specific structures within this supposed city.
Precisely, the article goes into detail about these 8 vertical shafts shaped like cylinders
Oh, wow.
that plunge down about 2,100 feet, almost half a mile, straight down into the earth. And get this, they're saying these shafts are encircled by spiral pathways that link up to 2 massive cube-shaped structures, each one roughly 80 meters wide.
80 meters, that's like 2 football fields end to end, just to give you a sense of how big we're talking. And as if that wasn't enough, on top of those cubes, they're claiming 5 more multi-level structures, all connected by passageways. It's
Yeah.
like they're painting this picture of a whole hidden world existing right beneath one of the most iconic ancient sites on the planet.
Which brings us to the technology they use to arrive at these conclusions. Synthetic aperture radar, as you mentioned, and it's a pretty clever approach instead of physically digging, which is disruptive and costly.
Right.
They're combining data collected from radar mounted on satellites with the natural vibrations that occur on the ground from things like earthquakes. This allows them to create these 3D images of what might be lying beneath the surface, all without disturbing the site itself.
So it's like peering through the ground without actually having to dig?
Precisely a very advanced form of remote sensing.
That's amazing. And they're interpreting these 3D images as evidence of this massive complex. And the researchers are definitely not shying away from the potential significance of what they think they've found. Their spokesperson, Nicole Ciccolo, is quoted saying, "This could redefine our understanding of the sacred topography of ancient Egypt and even provide exact coordinates for these previously unknown structures." That's a bold claim.
It is, and if we tie this back to all the speculation and theories surrounding ancient Egypt, the researchers are specifically connecting what they found to the legendary halls of Amenti.
Ah, the halls of Amenti.
This is a concept deeply rooted in ancient Egyptian beliefs, often depicted in their religious texts as this subterranean world where souls were judged and secrets were kept.
Right, the stuff of legends.
Exactly, and Silklo even went as far as to say that the cylinder structures they supposedly found under each of the main pyramids they believe might actually function as access points to this underground system.
So they're not just talking about hidden rooms, they're suggesting a whole interconnected network with these deep mythological ties. Now, of course, a claim this big is going to cause a stir in the archaeological community, and it has.
Absolutely. There's been pushed back quite a bit of it, actually, with many experts expressing skepticism about the validity of these claims.
Yeah, Professor Lawrence Conyers, for instance, has some serious doubts. He even told the Daily Mail that he's not even sure if the technology actually detected any structures at all. And he called the idea of this vast underground city a huge exaggeration.
A huge exaggeration, strong words from a respected figure in the field.
But Conyers doesn't completely dismiss the idea that there might be something down there. He proposes an alternative explanation, drawing comparisons to Mayan practices, where they built pyramids over caves or caverns that were already considered sacred.
Interesting.
So his thinking is, while there could be smaller features like shafts and chambers, maybe even predating the pyramids themselves because the location might have been significant to earlier cultures, this is a far cry from a massive interconnected underground city.
It's a question of scale and interpretation. As you said, what might appear as a sprawling city in the radar data
Mm.
could be something much more modest in reality.
Right, and the critics aren't just questioning how the researchers are interpreting the data. They're also looking at the capabilities of the technology itself. Can it really penetrate that deep into solid rock? The article mentions that SAR technology generally works best for things closer to the surface. Its effectiveness at going deep into solid rock beyond a few meters, that's where things get tricky.
It's like trying to use a flashlight to see through a dense fog. The further the light has to travel, the weaker it becomes, and the less you can actually make out. Solid rock presents a similar challenge for radar signals.
Now, despite all this skepticism, it's interesting to see how these claims have grabbed people's attention online. Social media is buzzing with theories and discussions.
People love a good mystery, especially one tied to a place as iconic as the Giza pyramids.
It's true, and some people are seeing this as proof for alternative theories about the pyramids, like the idea that they weren't just tombs, but maybe some sort of ancient energy devices.
Yeah.
They're even bringing up figures like Nikola Tesla and Christopher Dunn, who've explored these ideas in their work.
It's fascinating how these discoveries, or proposed discoveries, can fuel existing theories and give them new life.
Yeah.
The pyramids have always been a magnet for alternative explanations, and this latest claim seems to be adding to that.
Absolutely. And here's something both sides seem to agree on, both the researchers and Professor Conyers. They both say the only way to know for sure what's down there is to actually excavate.
The ground truth, so to speak.
Right. But as the article points out, getting permission to dig at a site as historically important as Giza is a long and difficult process.
Understandably so. There's a lot at stake when it comes to preserving such a significant site.
Speaking of which, we have to talk about the reaction from the Egyptian authorities, particularly Dr. Zahi Hawass. He's a leading archaeologist in Egypt, and he's come out strongly denying these claims about columns under King Khafre's pyramid, calling them baseless and lacking any scientific evidence.
Dr. Hawass has decades of experience at Giza, so his opinion carries a lot of weight. And he stated that no radar or modern technology has been used inside Khafre's pyramid, and that the Supreme Council of Antiquities hasn't given permission for any work there.
Yeah, he directly contradicts the researchers' claims.
And he goes even further, saying that these kinds of claims are an attempt to undermine ancient Egyptian civilization, a pretty serious accusation reflecting his concern about the potential spread of misinformation.
We also hear from another expert, Dr. Hussein Abdel Basir, the director of the Antiquities Museum at the Bibliotheca Alexandrina. He echoed Dr. Hawass's sentiment, calling the claims exaggeration and deception.
He emphasizes the limitations of certain techniques, like ground-penetrating radar or GPR and seismic analysis, saying they just don't have the power to penetrate deep enough to see the kinds of structures they're talking about, thousands of feet below the surface.
And Dr. Hawass agrees, pointing out that the detailed features the researchers are describing couldn't have been detected using these more standard methods.
So there seems to be a consensus among established archaeologists in Egypt that the current evidence doesn't support these claims of a hidden city.
Now, it's interesting how the researchers keep bringing up these connections to mythology. They keep mentioning the halls of Amenti and the Hall of Records, these legendary chambers filled with ancient wisdom, often associated with the god Thoth. Their spokesperson even mentioned a strong correlation between the structures they believe they've detected and these myths.
It seems like they're trying to connect their scientific findings, however preliminary or disputed they may be, with these ancient stories, perhaps to make their claims more intriguing and captivating.
And then you see the real-world impact of this. The article mentions that Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna shared a post about these findings, which obviously gave the story even more attention.
It just shows how quickly information, regardless of its scientific validity, can spread in our digital age, especially when it taps into these deeply fascinating subjects like the mysteries of ancient Egypt.
Right. And there's another layer to this. The fact that Professor Malanga is known in some circles as a ufologist.
Yeah.
Someone who's been on shows talking about extraterrestrial life and promoting these fringe theories about the pyramids is something critics are pointing to, suggesting he might be predisposed to seeing things that aren't really there.
This raises important questions about bias in scientific interpretation. How much do our pre-existing beliefs influence how we see and analyze data? It's a reminder that objectivity is crucial in science.
So to recap for you, we have these incredible claims about a massive underground city under the Giza pyramids based on this relatively new technology. SAR, the researchers believe they see evidence of structures that line up with ancient Egyptian legends.
Right, a compelling narrative for sure.
On the other hand, you have respected archaeologists who are very skeptical, questioning the technology's ability to see that deep. and pointing out the lack of any traditional archaeological evidence to back up such a huge discovery. It's a real clash of
And
perspectives.
that's an important takeaway for you. This whole situation highlights how new technologies are opening up exciting possibilities for archaeology. They give us tools to potentially see what's hidden beneath the surface and uncover parts of the past we never knew existed.
It's like having new eyes to see the past with.
Exactly. But it also underscores the importance of rigorous scientific analysis and peer review. Just because we get an image from a new piece of tech doesn't automatically mean we found a lost civilization.
Right, we need careful examination validation from other experts and ultimately real physical evidence to change our understanding of history.
This story really shows how new information, or proposed new information, can shake up existing knowledge and spark curiosity.
It makes us question what we think we know.
Exactly.
So there are still so many questions. Will these researchers be able to get permission to excavate at Giza? Will further analysis of their SAR data provide more convincing evidence that might change the minds of the skeptics? This is definitely a story to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a final thought for you to ponder, given our long fascination with the Giza pyramids. What does this debate say about our deep desire to connect with the ancient world and our willingness to consider these unconventional ideas even when they go against established scientific views? It really makes you think about the balance between embracing new possibilities and demanding solid evidence in our search for knowledge.
It's like a tug of war between imagination and the need for proof.
Precisely a tension that drives us to explore and understand the world around us.
Thanks for that insightful analysis, as always.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, keep those questions coming. We'll keep diving deep into the most intriguing stories for you.
Until next time.
See you then.